Hi, everyone. Is AI Apple's original sin? You're watching Tech Strong Gang. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back here to Tech Strong Gang. Well, I hope your Monday went well. It was the start of yet another week here in the summer. You know, as we get deeper into August in South Florida, we all of us down here start looking more and more towards sort of the Cape Verde Islands off Africa and so forth, and watching, storms spin up. And of course, we have one spinning up. Erin, isn't your wife's name Erin, JP?
That's right.
Yeah, no, good for you. You got a hurricane named after her.
Yeah, she's been watching that one. She's very proud of it.
I'm sure. Well, it's a healthy one. It's a healthy one. Anyway, if you're not in Hurricane Alley, it makes no difference to you, but that's kind of what we do down here in Florida in August, September, October. But we've got so much more than hurricanes to talk about and some great people to talk about it with. Our gang for today, I've already mentioned JP Morgenthau is a fellow Floridian with me, the one and only Stephen Foskett, and the Dean, Mike Vizard. What a great panel. Welcome, guys. Happy Tuesday. Let's dive into things. Mike, everyone's been beating up Apple that they're late to the AI wagon. I have my own views on this, but what's going on?
Well, there's a report out of Bloomberg that says that next year, Apple will get more serious with the AI capabilities built into Siri, and then that will be followed up by a robot, also driven by Siri, that will arrive in 2027 sometime. I'm not sure Apple confirmed any of this. I always get suspicious when I see these stories because, somebody's beating up Apple about not being AI savvy and their stock price gets beat up and suddenly this gets leaked. So I'm always suspicious about the motivation for these things. But JP, what's your sense of what's going on here with Apple and AI and what's real and what's not?
Well, I mean, the reports of the hardware coming out are 2027. So we're definitely forward-looking here with regard to this information. None of it is actually created or on the blocks or working prototypes as far as we know. I did listen to the Bloomberg report to hear what they were pulling out. The strategy itself, I think, befits Apple's strengths, which has been hardware. They are, I think that's been their claim to fame, is the creation of devices and bringing devices to market in a way that interacts with you in a way that's personal and makes sense. I got to say, some of these reports, though, about the utility of the devices that they're working on, I question, like you said, it's not so much a robot as it is like an iPad-like device on an arm that can track around your house and, be able to follow and advise and provide information as an assistant. I don't know how much room this market has for more assistance, but Apple always has somewhat of a fanboy base, people who will be beholden to Apple devices and get the latest Apple device. Their VR headset, I don't think, is doing well as well as they had hoped or expected. It is a very expensive piece of equipment. And it really doesn't answer the question on the AI side. It doesn't really talk to utilizing AI and getting the enhancements and the value out of Apple products, but also using Apple products in an AI-centered universe. So, as you said, a lot of people are calling for its head. They think that Apple's behind with regard to AI. I think the expectation, though, is that, FANG, Apple needs to keep up with Meta and Google and Microsoft with regard to producing and being part of that, gold rush. And I don't know that Apple does. I really don't. I mean, they are included in that FANG grouping, but I don't believe that they need to keep up in the same way. They're not an infrastructure player. Right. And a lot of the interest area is really around AI infrastructure. So, the expectation that Apple should be right there in the center with everybody producing models and generating, inference engines that everybody can. Well, that's not Apple's thing. And that's not where Apple plays. So to expect them to compete on that level and compete in that space with those players, I think is a misnomer.
Yeah, that's not really Apple's thing. I mean, they never have been a leading edge company or bleeding edge company. They just don't do that. Historically, I think people forget because Apple has had such incredible success with things like the iPhone and the AirPods and so on. I think people forget that a lot of these products are built on existing technologies, and Apple often waits for the market to mature before diving in. I think that's what they're doing with AI. I think you're spot on there, JP. Apple just isn't like the rest of those companies. And I think that time will show that they were smart not to pour billions of dollars into developing frontier AI large language models that ultimately there was no business justification for. To the news here, I think that it's really cool that the idea of what they're talking about. Apple fanboys probably remember the iMac G4 from 2002, which was sometimes nicknamed the lamp iMac, which has kind of a rounded base with an arm and a screen. They actually had advertisements where those moved around and danced. I think that's exactly what Bloomberg is suggesting that Apple is developing. Essentially, like a little home thingy with like a little arm, and it kind of moves around and follow. It doesn't literally follow you around the house. It just sort of is there in the room with you, reacting to you in sort of a friendly way. I think that would be a cool product. I think Apple could probably pull that off. I'm not sure it would be transformative or useful. I think that it would be a lot of work for a product that would have, limited appeal. But I think that it shows what Apple could do with AI technology once it's a little bit more mature and a little bit less burn down the rainforest with, mega models. I think that Apple could run all of the AI needed to have a articulated, friendly Siri bot, run it on device with moderate power consumption, and that could be a pretty good move for Apple. And actually, it would be a pretty nice differentiator for the company in the market when everybody else seems to be running off with these Stargate billion nuclear powered data center projects.
Well, I don't know, Alan. What's your take here? Because I look at this thing, especially this thing that, as JP described it, I'm like, I'm married happily. I got 4 children. I'm blessed. I don't need another thing following me around the house, telling me what to do.
Reminds me of an old Star Trek episode with Harcourt Fenton Mudd. And he had the android of his ex-wife Stella or whatever her name was. But anyway.
Yeah, they could rename it that. They could call it Stella instead of Siri.
Yeah, that would work. Harcourt Fenton Mudd, have you been drinking again? Is that alcohol I smell on your breath? But anyway, is Apple too late to the AI? Yeah. Does anybody remember cell phones before there was an iPhone?
Sure.
There was a decade of them,
Yeah.
But yet the iPhone sort of,
StarTAC.
BlackBerry.
Yeah, they're doing.
Yeah, but you look the month
real
before
well.
the introduction of the iPhone, and you look the month after the introduction of the iPhone, and everything changed.
I still think there's a moment like that might be out there for AI. I don't think it's a monitor with arms that may or may not be on wheels following you around. I think that's pure smoke that they must have went back from that Bloomberg briefing and rolled on the floor that these guys ate that up. Because
part of it was also they're going after the home security market.
Yes,
so
the home security is a real market. But you want to know what? So you know who you left out of their competition for these things? Amazon. Amazon has a great, between Ring and what's the other one? Bling? Not Bling, Blink, something, Ring and something. They've got the cameras and the home security stuff nailed down pretty good. Google, of course, is in there. Look, in my house, all you have to do is say her name and the little And the woman from Amazon, I don't want to say it because there's liable to be one in here.
I call it the dot.
Yeah.
If
In my house,
dot.
it's not just the dots. I've got I have the 15-inch screen of it. It's built into all my sound bars. It's built into, like, my the whole house is done up in it. So it's never, I don't need it to follow me around.
And another friend whose wife is named Alexa. Can you imagine those houses?
Oh, it must be terrible. But, so it's already there. I would, Stephen, I remember I know you were on the show that day. We talked about the first day the OS 26 betas came out. I remember you hated the glass interface. I don't know if it's been growing on you. I like it, but here's the thing. They are subtly building intelligence into their product line. And I think that's really where they're going to make their thing. I'll tell you something else, though. Did Johnny Ive signing the deal with OpenAI steal their secret plans for world conquest and domination?
I think that hurt.
Yeah.
I think that definitely hurt.
I think
it was almost like, the rats leaving and jumping the ship, right?
I mean, I bet you they thought they had that in the bag, right? Johnny Ive was going to come up with something Apple-ish that would just, do it.
So, Alan, self-admitted Apple fanboy, correct? OpenAI starts showing up with gear next year. Are you not first in line?
Absolutely, because I'm just not an Apple fanboy. I'm a gadget boy. It makes no difference to me. If there's some new tech gadget, I'm there.
And does anybody think Samsung's going to have something to say about all this soon?
Well, it's funny. I'm an Apple fanboy, but we recently bought the Samsung Frame TV and the Samsung speakers. I don't remember what they're called, but they're like, they look like a picture frame. In fact, they have a picture in them.
No, I have a frame TV in my bedroom. It's really nice.
It's really nice. And the integration with their whatever the heck they call it, Symphony something or other sound, it's really good. And so we're actually pretty happy. The funny thing is we don't use any of the intelligence of the frame. It's a dumb TV with an Apple TV behind it because the Apple TV experience is so much better. But that combination really works well. And, Samsung has some good capabilities.
Yeah, no, they absolutely do. I mean, to me, and I don't take this the wrong way, it used to be the argument between, let's say, a European sedan versus a Japanese sedan. The Japanese made fine sedans and they had all the bells and whistles. As a matter of fact, they had more bells and whistles than the Europeans. The Europeans were more expensive. They had that kind of Tony look, right? Do you want to drive a Mercedes, a Beamer, an Audi, or, a Jaguar? Versus maybe a Lexus, Infiniti, Toyota, Honda, right? And I think you get that sort of between Samsung and Apple, right? I think Samsung has great bells and whistles. They make good products. I had a bad experience with one of their 8K TVs, but we could talk about that another time. I went to Sony. But anyway,
I use my tablet is a Samsung tablet. My phone is the Flip Z. So
you are a Samsunger.
I just find that the products are good price, good quality.
Their refrigerators have a bad rap.
I'm sorry?
Their refrigerators.
I've had Samsung stuff for a long time. Yeah.
But the digital equipment, the common integration, what you use on a daily basis, your tablet, your phone, I think they do a fine job with, and they're reasonably priced, and they're well integrated.
Yes, they are. They are. But back to Apple. As I said, it's early in this game. We're not even at the end of the beginning. So there's time for them. I wouldn't be selling all my Apple stock just yet.
Is this move to bolster the stock price, or are they trying to actually freeze
Stock
the
price is
market, or a
doing
little bit of
well.
both?
The stock price is doing well. I don't think that they needed to make this announcement. They've been rising steadily over the past month and a half. They were under 2 months ago. I think they're at 230. I last saw them. So, I mean, I think they're doing fine. What they need is another good iPhone release, and that's where I think that they, you know, Apple is getting uh, stymied. Right? It's like, what do you got? What do you got that's going to be worth the Apple iPhone 17? You know?
On that point, though, I mean, what has anybody got? I mean, the iPhone is one of the most important products of the century, maybe one of the most important consumer electronics products of all time. To say that Apple's going to come out with another iPhone, man, oh man, that's a challenge for anybody.
That's true. So, what year was that when the iPhone first came out? Was that, I forgot, but
iPhone first came out around 2004 or 5.
okay. And then that was followed up by maybe what? The next cool thing was the iPad, right?
Yeah, the iPhone was released on June 29th, 2007.
Was it 7 already? Later than I thought. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So then the iPad followed a few years later, and since then, what?
Steve Jobs died.
Right. Well,
Oh, let's not get down that route. I know that people like to say that, but the AirPods alone are one of the biggest consumer electronic products
but
in
the
history.
AirPods were Steve Jobs. That was under development when Jobs was there.
Well, you might as well say everything was under development when Jobs. I mean, I'm sure that Jobs knew about the transition to ARM as well. You know what I mean?
Well, he didn't want to be
You
beholden to
got to give Tim some
Intel.
credit sometime.
No, look, Tim Cook has done a heck of a job of steering the ship, but bold and Tim Cook don't go together. Honestly, and I'm a fanboy. I love their stuff. I have it all. There's very few other. I didn't buy the glasses, the VR things. That was a bridge too far for me. But
I mean, the AirPods came out over 5 years after the death of Steve Jobs.
okay,
You're really going to say that they're Steve Jobs' creation?
I think it came out under. Yeah, I think so. I'm sorry, but hey.
All right. Well, I hope, well, let me just tell you about this, back to this story. So this magical Siri robot thing that they're talking about, when Steve Jobs introduced the iMac G4 in 2002, he said that in the future, all consumer devices are going to look like this device, which would be a base with an articulated arm with a screen on it. So when this product comes out in 2028 or 2029,
Steve Jobs.
it's a Steve Jobs product.
Give him credit.
No credit for Tim Cook.
The man was a visionary.
hey, so the next product launch
Just
will
really
be
early.
will be a digital avatar of Steve Jobs doing
You know
the whole
what? You want to
presentation.
really get me going? Give me a holographic Siri that just pops up.
Oh yeah,
Like
the
off of my
Emperor in the
watch, a
Star Wars
projector
movies,
or
right?
something.
You want
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
That I would say Steve Jobs never thought of, and go Tim Cook. But let's take a break and come back to our next subject. You're watching TechStrong Gang.
Discover TechStrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with TechStrong Group.
Hey folks, we're back and we're going to dive into something that some folks might consider arcane and other folks are screaming about. But Microsoft apparently is changing its licensing plans for its SaaS products for the volume discounts that it provides. And some people are complaining already that this amounts to a 10% price hike. Others are saying Microsoft's trying to take more of those customers direct so they can sell them more professional services. And there's always been some contention about the way SaaS apps are priced anyway. Everybody kind of starts out with a 50% discount and tries to negotiate downwards from there. And well, frankly, it's a little crazy to begin with. But Alan, what is your take on what's going on here with A, Microsoft, and B, is the whole pricing model around SaaS apps just kind of broken?
Yeah. So there's circles within circles here, right? Spirals within spirals. First of all, they're only talking about their volume discount plan, which is probably one of 5 different discount plans they have over there. This one, though, and I think why it got attention is it affects the channel. And, the Microsoft channel, like the Cisco channel and some of these other big providers, you got players who will kill themselves over 20 basis points, 10 basis points, because that's the difference there. And so every little discount helps. But, the bigger issue is, Mike, as you said, the whole SaaS pricing model for some, especially with these bigger companies that have 3-tier distributions, is full of crap. You never know, I always find just keep going higher up the tree and you'll get better discounts, right? Not good enough, let me speak to your manager, let me go direct, and you keep getting better discounts. And maybe it's the New York boy in me, but that's the way I always did business with them. And it's not just Microsoft, it's all of the bigger players like this. There seems to always be another discount plan that you didn't know about. If this one dries up, let's see what the next one is. I'm all for transparency in pricing. And I think that's the key. I'm not going to hit on Microsoft, but let me tell you something. I got a bill from Google YouTube last week for my NFL Sunday ticket for $522. I was livid, because I'm watching.
And I thought my MLB season pass was expensive.
But the NFL is a world unto itself. I mean, they're a marketing money machine. But I'm watching Google commercials on the TV, 4 payments of $39.95 or whatever.
Right.
It comes
I've
out to
seen that,
about
yeah.
$280 is what it comes out to, at half the price. I reach out to Google to say, where's my volume discount here? Where's my discount? Of course, I'm still waiting because they don't get a live person at Google, and it could take 2 weeks for them to get back to you. But the whole SaaS model's rotten, guys, right? And look, we could sit here and talk about, is AI going to break SaaS? Hey, what's his name from Microsoft? Satya himself says SaaS is dying, right? Couldn't come soon enough for me, these son of a guns charging me $522 to watch football this year. But, in terms of this, I don't think any Microsoft end users are sitting here truly saying, oh, I'm going to pay 10% more, because they're going to say, I want to speak to a manager. And they're going to get their discount back. The only people who may lose out on this are the channel partners. And don't they always? But Microsoft has a way of making good to their channel partners too. So I'm sure there'll be yet another discount we don't know about thrown into the program to make them whole too. So crocodile tears for me, guys.
Well, I don't want to get excited about pricing and licensing discussions, but
$522 is crazy. But yeah, go ahead.
But there's an angle here. According to the article, this was partly driven by the EU requirements for transparent pricing. Could it be that the European Union could help all of us by forcing some of these companies to have less obscure? Because you are absolutely right. Pricing, especially in major SaaS contracts, is entirely fictitious. Yes, there's a price, but essentially, if you're a bigger customer or a very big customer, what you pay is going to be what you negotiate rather than what the price is. And could it be that the EU might end up cracking down on some of those shenanigans? And could that maybe help us?
There's a whole pattern here from the big players with regard to adhering to EU. Remember, years ago, it was like, all right, I'll follow the EU rules, but in the US, I'm doing my way. I have seen now 3 or 4 different occasions where EU rules are just becoming the rules that they play by internationally, right? One of them actually had to do with how minors need to be confirm their age in order to watch certain content. That was initiated by the European Union, and they took it to the US. So the US now, Google's now implemented this worldwide. And if you're of a certain age, you need to prove who you are and what age you are, the same way they do in the UK. And so I think there's a whole pattern here that's kind of going on where the the, the specialty, by region is starting to. They're realizing it's expensive to maintain all these different types of systems with different rules, and it's like, you know what? If they want it that way, it's not that big a deal. We're going to push it on everybody.
It does seem to me that a lot of effort goes into these negotiations, and I'm not sure that they're meaningful. I mean, did I really get a better deal than the next person, or did we just all, waste about a month of a year of talking to each other about pricing when at the end of the day, I might be a half a point difference than the next guy, JP? I mean, how silly is this?
I Look, every dollar matters in business, right? Especially when you're a large corporation, and your enterprise licenses based on the size of your organization or how much revenue you're generating. It can be substantial, right? Somebody like a J&J or General Motors is going to see substantial upside based on that discount if they're going by revenue and the size of the organization. So it's not a small change for some of these businesses. For others, it's nominal, right? You're a $40 million business. It's going to be nominal.
Well, you know what they say, though? If you watch your pennies, the dollars take care of themselves.
Thanks, Granny.
just some wise words of wisdom, right? I'm going to throw out there. But seriously, it's true, right? You got to watch these things, and a half a point here and a half a point there, and it starts adding up. As I said, especially, when you're in the channel game, those 50 basis points is a big, big difference in your margin. It's the difference between profitability and not sometimes, right? You got overhead, cost of goods sold, salespeople and stuff, right? You, in the Cisco channel, the Microsoft channel, these traditional channels, especially in the 3-tier distribution model where you go from manufacturer to distributor to jobber, if you will. It's a big difference, man. They live on those margins.
I will tell you the one thing that does drive me crazy about it. It makes it almost impossible to do any meaningful apples to apples comparison across any of these guys because no one knows what the actual price is.
But I think they like it that way. The Microsofts
they sure do, yeah.
of the world, they want it that way. That's right. They'll kill this discount, this volume discount deal, but they're not going to tell you about some other discount programs that they have in their back pocket if they need to close the deal. It's the business. Well, I'm going to go get on the phone now and see if I get a bigger discount on my Microsoft stuff. But we're watching TechStrong Gang. We'll be back. Are we in a data center crisis? Oh, this sounds so manufactured. You're watching TechStrong Gang.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.
Hey folks, we're back and we're talking about, just how much capacity is there available in these data centers. A new report out from JLL. They are a commercial real estate services provider company, and they're saying that their vacancy rates narrowed down to 2.3%. And we also know that the cloud service providers are complaining, or not complaining, but at least cautioning people and advising people to be more efficient with their infrastructure because they too are running out of space. And then, or at least according to JLL, some folks are booking data center capacity now 12 to 18 months ahead of time because they just can't get to the stuff, and they're just hoping that they have applications, or assuming they're going to have applications to go there, but it's pretty far in advance of when the app is actually ready. Stephen, is this the new reality that we're in? Because it looks like it's a lot more complicated, at least here in the US.
Yeah, I wonder how much of this booking is speculative in nature. We certainly, the numbers tell us that we're in something of a data center vacancy crisis. In other words, there's not much vacant data center space available. But we've been building so much data center space, and I say we, I guess I don't mean me, but the industry has been building so much data center space. It's actually kind of, I don't want to say the wrong word here, but inconceivable that there isn't enough data center space already, that this vacancy. So I wonder how much of this space is actually standing empty in anticipation of use. Anticipation of, could this be another bubble, maybe even an AI adjacent bubble where people are leasing data center space preemptively in hopes that they'll be able to fill it with, GPUs and so on. One of the stories, Mike, that you shot over to me, which was really interesting, was this Reno Tahoe Industrial Center where they're building, get this, this industrial park is larger than the city of Detroit. They are building that much data center space in the Reno Tahoe area. And it's basically everyone you've heard of: Google, Switch, Nuova, all these companies are, Microsoft, Google are there. It's all these companies, and they're building in Reno Tahoe. Is this a good place for a data center? Probably not, because the Sierra Nevada mountains are right there and they cast a rain shadow. So there's really no water there. The Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe is saying they will soon have to call themselves, well, I studied urban planning, and there's an urban planning joke that I'm going to let you all in on. You always name a new development after what used to be there but isn't anymore because you built your development. So like, Happy Deer Park, Fox Meadows, Indian Trail,
Fox
all these
Meadows
things
are neither Fox nor Meadows, right?
Yep, they're all gone
Right.
because we paved it and we built houses and golf courses there. So the Paiute Indian, Pyramid Lake Paiute Indian tribe are going to have to be the artist formerly known as the Pyramid Lake, because there ain't going to be no Pyramid Lake anymore. It's all going to get drained for these data centers. It's wild that we're building that much, and yet we still have a vacancy crisis. What do you guys think? I mean, is this real or is this speculative?
I have some. First of all, look, this is all tied into the AI data center thing too, where we've got $1.5 trillion, pledged for whatever that means for new AI data center space. But, this brings me back to the .com days, right? In the .com days, there was a little town outside of Boulder, Colorado called Interlochen. I don't know if you guys have ever been out to Interlochen.
I was just there.
That's right. You were on vacation in Boulder, so you know. So I'm starting a company at the Mobius Data Center, Mobius Accelerator Incubator, Mobius Venture Capital. And that's in Louisville, between Boulder and Interlochen. And I used to have to go into Interlochen a lot for business meetings. There were a lot of storage companies, Storage Tech and McStorage and all that stuff. But then you had Level 3 there. You had whatever the Bell West from Denver was called at that time was there. Might have been I don't think it was Century yet. Anyway, there were a whole bunch of fiber people there. Right? And we had the same discussions. There was the same drive in the market. We have a bandwidth crisis. We're not going to be able to deliver all these resources and all this great stuff's coming online, and we don't have the bandwidth to deliver it. We're going to have to deliver it over copper wire and coaxial cable and last mile, and we'll forget the last mile. We don't have the first mile. And we sunk so much money into building fiber that the term dark fiber became, everyone knows what that means, right? When the bubble burst, there were a lot of people holding a lot of fiber that we had overbuilt. And there was a data center aspect to that fiber as well. I think we're looking at the same thing here. Speculative, Stephen, I'm going to tell you something. According to this article, right, like 75% of all the data center space that's under construction right now is already pre-spoken for. How many of those people bought it on speculation and figure they'll arbitrage it when the time comes? If they haven't quite grown where they need it, look, data center space is premium. We could sell it at a profit, sublease it, whatever. I think there's a lot of that going on. This is, to me, this is going to be a musical chairs game, and just pity the poor fool who's standing when the music stops.
I think the one piece overlooked about all this is, this is North America. Last time I checked, there was this internet thing that allowed you to put apps anywhere you wanted.
But not with digital sovereignty. I think sovereignty makes a difference here. People are going to want to shorten their supply chains and all of that good stuff.
I'm thinking a data center up in I'll pick Norway for the EU market is going to be cheaper because it's cooler than maybe one in I'll pick on Columbus, Ohio, because I know where Foster lives.
But Stephen has a particular fondness for data centers in his backyard, but the thing is, and I forgot if it was in this one links or not, is clearly the data center industry is rallying around nuclear. And if you believe, you could put up a little container-sized nuclear plant to run your data center, you could do that anywhere, even under the sea.
Equinix is talking about that as they're going to go build out some nuclear reactors. But is that going to happen before the end of the decade, Stephen?
No. Not at all. But it could happen at the end of the decade, and that would be interesting. I mean, one of the things that would be interesting about nuclear and solar and other sources of cheap electricity, one of the reasons that data centers use so much power is because it's much more efficient to use evaporative cooling than heat transfer, heat pump cooling. Theoretically, if we had sufficient power, we could use more heat pump cooling and reduce the use of water, especially if it was incredibly reliable, like nuclear. So I don't want to sound like too positive on this overbuilding trend, because I definitely think there's overbuilding and speculation going on here. But could we perhaps solve the water problem, at least, with more electricity? It is possible.
Now, there are some good things happening here. Some companies are looking all of this and saying, maybe we'll just go back to building our own data centers. And they are taking over old mills in places like Pittsburgh to kind of refurbish them to become their local data center service. So that could be good for those communities.
I don't know how good
moderately
that is.
Good. Remember we talked last week
we
about
had this. That doesn't
this
make
automotive
jobs.
factory. Yep.
No, and not making jobs, but it does provide access to power, and that is enough to drive your AI up. So people are starting to get concerned about whether or not they're going to have enough capacity to run these AI apps. In fact, some of the AI crowd is screaming about how, we're going to lose this thing to China because they have more power than they know what to do with.
Oh my God, the Red Menace?
The Red Menace.
Whenever we need a boogeyman, we got it right there.
There is a peak power issue when it comes to these data centers. We are seeing that it is becoming more expensive to deliver power to these data centers. And at the end of the day, the capacity for the entire system as a whole, right, is going to be delegated to availability within, to support an infrastructure to support these things. So it is. I liked one of the stories was that there's a group that can do small nuclear power based on reuse of fissile material, which, as long as it's safe, great, right? And it's not becoming toxic waste somewhere, and it can generate, that additional power. I do think that we are looking at, even if there's vacancy, right? Even if it's not filled, there's still a capacity issue to the entire industry as a whole. The the desire of what the consumption is, level of consumption right now is at an all-time high, and I don't think we can easily satisfy it. I mean, OpenAI has a lot of outages, right? I hear of outages all the time. Anthropic, I see outages in using their services. They are having a tough time keeping up, and that's going to drive that a consumption of that vacancy space very, very quickly.
And this will become the argument for why we need to loosen the regulations in this whole space, because we have to keep up with the pace of demand, and we're going to lose the race to
the Chinese.
X number of countries.
Oh,
right?
yes. Got to keep up
We
with
got to
that
keep the
competition.
world safe for democracy. Hey, I want a love canal.
Wait, who has democracy now?
I
UK?
don't know. I just repeat, the slogans.
Mhm.
I'm a good party member. What can I say?
Yeah.
Well, we
Too
shall
fun.
see.
Love canal coming to Ohio.
So wait, so what regions? So you talked about Nevada. We've also seen Arizona's
Phoenix, that water wonderland. Phoenix, Arizona. Great place for data centers.
Texas.
Texas.
People are looking. Yeah, people are looking
Another
for-
verdant paradise.
I guess northern Wisconsin is now a spot because they have
Well, they have lakes.
nuclear. Yeah, they also have a nuclear energy place up there.
And they
Apparently,
better not mess with them cows, though.
No, don't mess with the cheese.
Not the cheese.
cheeseheads will be after you. Is that the thing?
Yeah.
I'll be after you.
No, isn't Ohio, Stephen, no, all kidding aside, isn't Ohio like data center central or something?
Yeah, well, Northern Virginia, I think, is where the most data
Today,
centers are. But,
yes.
I was going to say
Today.
Northern Virginia, yeah.
but there's certainly a lot being built in Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, sort of the middle of the U.S. because there's more water here. But there again, how long will that last? These things are just absolute water hogs. And I wonder too if there's going to be climate or perhaps weather, microclimate related issues
Humans
if you
don't
are
humans don't
evaporating
contribute to that.
tons of water.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
The earth, it changes. The earth, our climate's been changing forever. This is not a human issue.
So
Well, the dinosaurs, they went extinct because they built out too much AI data
That's
center
exactly
space.
what it was.
At what point, though, do AI companies or hyperscalers or wherever show up in a local community and say, we recognize that these are all issues, and we will start paying your electric bill and we'll offset the cost of all these things because they're making money hand over fist.
Does
And
the
it just
term when pigs fly?
Oh, that would be interesting,
Yeah.
though. I could see that happening. That's a real good idea, Mike. I could see somebody like a Microsoft come into a community and say, you know what, we're going to build this data center, but in exchange, everybody gets half price electricity from now on.
Another
And
volume
boy, that would
discount
change
plan.
the talk.
All right, there we go. Oh my God, what a tangled web. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to call a wrap on this excellent edition of The Gang. JP, Stephen, Mike, thanks so much for joining. Thank you for watching. As always, we have TechStrong TV playing. There's some good Black Hat videos still playing on TechStrong TV, so check those out. But until tomorrow, enjoy your Tuesday, and we'll see you Wednesday for another great TechStrong Gang. We're out.